my Crumbs. I need a Samsung. I gotta get my Crumbs. I need a Samsung. I gotta get my Crumbs. I need a Samsung. I gotta get my Crumbs. I need a Samsung.
All right. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Brian.
Welcome to Crumbs. This is the first episode of a new show that Ryan and I wanted to do strictly because we discovered that it was easy to do it on this StreamYard platform, and that is all the goals that we have, is just to have a live show. Feel free to comment and stuff. I think we'll see it on here. I don't know. This is new for all of us. Oh, there's Matthew Francis Anderson. Hey, buddy. Okay, so it's working. We got that going for us. How you doing, Ryan?
You know, I'm doing all right. We're crumbing it up today. Got Bulls documentary later tonight, so This is the most I've had to look forward to in 2 months.
That's for sure. And we got our buddy Sam Lewis waiting for us.
Slamming Sammy Lewis.
Slamming Sammy. So like for anybody who's wondering what this is, we were just kind of, Ryan and I talk a lot with each other and with other people in the music industry about how this thing might turn out on the other end of all of this, and just what the music industry is going to look like if and when we pull out of this pandemic. And we thought it'd be cool to kind of get people's ideas, what they're working on, and just kind of talk about how it's developing and how it might end up. I
think we'll get into this more, but it's you and I talk about this a lot where, I think there's a lot of people talking about, the kind of woe is me and how bad it is, which is all true. But I think that there's a lot of things that, these are times that innovation happens and change happens. And so we want to talk to people who have ideas for how to make stuff cool and better when we get out of this thing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for things to get better. We have a couple of things, just that, I guess maybe we pay attention to this more than a lot of people who might be watching this and who might be interested. We're going to kind of start off each episode with some stuff that's going on in the news and maybe some things that are pointing to how this might shape up. One of the things that Ryan and I both read was an article that was in Pollstar recently. Pollstar is a trade magazine and kind of database that agents and managers and talent buyers use. I'm going to put the link in the comments right now. Hopefully that works, to the article. But it kind of explores how things might be handled in a world where social distancing will be necessary in a concert venue, and how like the live music might be rolled out in a regional way, as certain regions have restrictions lifted. I live in Iowa, so obviously it's insane, but we are like half open right now. Not concert venues, but a lot of businesses have been opened to 50% capacity, which is absolutely insane, but that's a different conversation. But like, how does that work with a concert venue? I used to work for a company called Madison Entertainment in Nashville, and Roger LeBlanc, my former boss, is quoted in there as saying potentially doing 50% capacity shows and doing 2 shows a night in venues, which seems kind of crazy.
Well, unless you're in the jazz world, which is what like the standard already is.
Sure. For people who don't know, Ryan works for a company called Big Fish Booking, which is a jazz talent agency and management firm. So that's an interesting kind of slant to it. I think that it kind of brings to the forefront this reality check that's about to happen, where musicians are used to getting paid. Let's say like a bigger band is used to getting paid $10,000 to play a 700 cap room, and now they're going to be doing 2 shows that night to 350 people in that 700 cap room and getting paid $10,000 for the whole night. So you're getting paid half as much per show. Is that kind of what the agent world is considering, or is that something that's floated across the big fish mind?
I mean, the way that we're talking about things and the way that I think about this stuff right now is that the only consensus is that there's no consensus, right?
Right.
Nobody has answers. And if you see what's going on in venues, it's pretty similar to what's going on in this country, in that, like, you know, you're in Iowa City, and what's happening in Iowa City is totally different than what's happening in Chicago and in Illinois. You know, Illinois has this tier system to reopen, and are saying that until, you know, to progress each tier, you need to hit so many, you know, different numbers. And what everybody says the last thing that's going to come back is concerts, or, you know, which I think they tend to mean like larger events.
Right.
But they're saying things that like 50 people and under might happen. So I don't know. I think the way I'm thinking about it and the way that I see things is that whatever happens is going to be small and regional. But even that takes into it, you know, assumes that even if you open up and say that you can have 50 people come, are 50 people going to want to come?
Right.
And what does it look like? You know, before there's a vaccine, what does it look like to actually get people to come in? Are you taking people's temperatures? Are you doing so? There are so many unanswered questions.
Oh, for sure. Like the other article we were talking about is this New York Times article, which I'll link in a second here. But there's a quote from it that, you know, they're talking about different ways that they can make it happen and stuff. But like you said, are people even going to come? And there was a quote from that article that said, the signals from audiences are not promising so far. A recent poll by Reuters found that only 40% of Americans would be willing to attend a sports or entertainment event before a vaccine was available. So that's 18 months. Yeah. That's 40% of people. And in that Pollstar article, you have like a talent buyer in Montana who's saying they're planning on being open by September, which is, you know, that's crazy. And like, obviously arena shows are not going to happen for a very long time. I wonder if those big arena bands, you know, once people can be around each other, but just not that many, I wonder if they're going to do like full production live shows on like network television, or something like that. I don't know. But the point is, you're probably not going to see Nickelback in person for a long time.
Which is how I was planning on proposing to Jen. So got to put those marriage plans off a little while longer.
You had like 12 years of of opportunity. And
just
now
waiting for that right Nickelback concert. Ian Leith wrote a great question, and I think that this ties into kind of what we were talking about, all the unanswered things. Where do they pee? Great question, Ian.
Totally, yeah.
Those are the kinds of things that I think that we really have to think about. I mean, you know, you saw the CDC guidelines that came out that Trump tried to bury. And in there were things about restaurants and stuff having sneeze guards in front of places. So how does a bar operate, right?
Sure.
How do all of these things happen? And I think that those are the questions that need to get answered first on the like venue side. But I think, and what we're going to talk with Sam about today, and one of the things that we want to do here is, you know, there have to be creative things that we can do, and creative solutions, because it can't all just be about, you know, people can't just sit around and wait for live music to happen again.
No.
So what are we going to do in the interim? And then what are we going to do moving forward? Because I think that one of the things that, and I know this is pretty inside baseball right now, but one of the things that this has really brought to light are how many huge issues there are in the music industry. Like, this just shows how many huge problems exist. You know, it's, you know, we're standing on a, you know, like a sand dune that's just, you know,
right.
Blah, blah, blah. So,
well, and it's not a secret that the music industry has been messed up. It's been widely complained about since like radio happened.
Right. And I mean, we've seen, so it's before, like we've been, you know, we've seen it when you're supposed to give your music away. You don't make any money from streaming. It's one thing after another. And now for the foreseeable future, it's going to be, you know, even if shows come back, it's not going to be the revenue stream that it was.
Right. And and the whole business was built in a way that the only way you can make music was by touring, or make money was by touring. And that's over. For anybody interested, I also shared a link that was written by it's an article written by a PhD and professor at UMass Dartmouth about how the virus spreads, and especially how it spreads in contained environments like indoors. And it is just really interesting. So if you're thinking, well, what's the big deal with having half the amount of people in the venue, everybody can spread out. That article does a really interesting job of explaining how when you're inside somewhere without great airflow, which is every rock club in the country, how it can really spread even if you're across the room, or how the vents work, how the airflow in the room works. So where the air conditioning is and where the vent is, and how the air moves through. There was a case in there where there was a restaurant, and people who were in the strip where the air moved through all got it, but the people who were outside of it didn't. So, for venues who do want to reopen, that might be something where they might have to do some structural changes to improve airflow, which I think would be better for everybody, especially with smoke shows and whatnot. Anyway, before we bring Sam on here, there is a new thing called the National Independent Venue Association that we wanted to talk about real quick, which is 1,000+ independent clubs across the country that have kind of gained together to exert some influence in Washington, to try to get some help for those venues who are very likely not going to, not all of them will survive this, depending on how long it goes. Most of the venues say that they will, without financial support, they'll be out of business in 6 months to a year. A lot of legendary rooms around the country who people take for granted, like First Avenue Club in Minneapolis, or Kane's Ballroom in Tulsa, or even the Troubadour in LA, are thinking they might not come back. And so they're trying to get some help. If you'd like to help out with that, I'm posting the link right now where you can take action. It's real easy to just send a note to your Congress representatives and
it takes
your
2
governor.
seconds.
Yeah, it takes
they have projections in there that, without some action, that they're thinking that up to 90% of venues could close. So
yeah, it's insane. I mean, like, it's one thing if when can live music come back, the other thing is where is it going to come back to, and we want to make sure that a lot of these rooms that we love are available for that. Anyway, should we bring Sam on?
Bring the big guy on.
He looks bored here. I'm gonna see how well this works. Let's see. There he is. Hey, Sam. Sam.
Did we catch him in the middle of eating a bagel?
We
did.
May have.
This is great.
For those who don't know, Sam Lewis is a songwriter based in Nashville, Tennessee. He's been doing it for a long time. He had a new album that came out. When did that come out, Sam? This year, Solo, in February, which is all solo takes of songs that he has on other records, but also some new songs. It was all recorded live in a studio with a live audience, which squeezed that one in right under the gun. Yeah, so go check it out. Sam, welcome.
Hey.
Hi, buddy.
How are you guys doing? You all right?
Pretty
We're
good,
okay.
man. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
So one thing I wanted to talk to you about, I guess we can start here, is that you are obviously in Nashville, as those giant letters on your wall behind you say. And right before this, Nashville was hit with your neighborhood was hit with a huge tornado, which wiped out a bunch of venues and the 5 Points, and then is immediately hit with, a pandemic. How are things in Nashville right now? And I know the answer is pretty similar everywhere, but it seems like there's an extra layer of
not good
devastation.
Yeah. I was in Europe when the tornado happened, and it's sad. It's a sad now I get that's the general emotion. I mean, that you went from, this horrible thing. Tornadoes happen. They happen all the time in a lot of places. They're not that uncommon. And it's an immediate effect. And what was amazing to see how many volunteers and people came out helping one another, as people should. And then that was immediately kind of, I mean, like in a day, just kind of amputated, just done, just cut off. And so I got back to town like mid-March, and I'd been gone for like almost 2 months. So doing my best to quarantine, but also like I needed to do a couple, personal things, the store, the post office, whatnot. And my post office is right in 5 Points. And so there's still a lot of blue tarps, a lot of places just ripped inside out. The YMCA, it's horrific. There's a couple of, small buses that are just, it looks like Twizzlers. It's incredible to see. And then there's no one out.
Right.
So that is, it's just beyond unsettling. And there's still people that are displaced and will be displaced for a while longer. And there's still construction going on, but it's it's one of the, unfortunately, like the natural disasters don't hit time out because we're quarantined. It's really a terrible look into the future. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I hope hurricane season isn't that bad, but it could show you, what could potentially happen. So, and that already, I mean, there's so many new businesses in Nashville that, there's things that pop up overnight all the time. Like I'll be gone for just a couple weeks and come back and I'm like, I have no clue what this is, but what's that? There's a fucking axe throwing bar. You know what I mean? Like that, I don't even know what exactly that is, but it didn't get hit by the tornado. But this the shutdown is definitely probably going to put a lot of places like that out of business. If not, we're going to go out of business just simply due to the natural disaster that happened. So it's really, it's just sad. I mean, because the music community, the art community in itself, there's our way of communicating and sharing is gathering. That's right. Our communion. And so not surprised to see that many volunteers come out and help, and all these benefit shows, you know what I mean? And a lot of thank you that a lot of people got for doing these benefit shows were, oh, by the way, you might want to go get tested because I'm pretty sure 3 people were at this event last night have it.
Yeah.
Well, and then I saw that there were benefit shows planned that had to get obviously canceled because of what happened. And then the other thing, I mean, we all used to live in Nashville, and one of the things that I keep thinking about there is that, we talk a lot about how the current economic situation is how everybody's feeling it, but Nashville is so built, especially East Nashville is so built on people who are, quote unquote independent contractors, who are self-employed, who play guitar and or own a venue or whatever it is. And to see the neighborhood kind of wiped out, and then this come in behind it where people literally can't work to kind of help dig their way out of it. How is the community dealing with that? Like the music community right now? Have you been talking to a lot of people? Are there? I'm babbling, but
no, it's everyone just kind of feels. I know it's hard to speak for everyone. I mean, everyone's situation's a bit different, but there's still music being recorded. Not a lot of it. I don't know exactly where or who or how. It's still kind of going on, but I don't know anyone personally other than, well, I know a couple people that are working on stuff, but that in itself is a whole different, there's different parameters within that. Is that safe? Is that smart? Man, I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? Right. I have no clue. but it feels like at a whole, everyone kind of feels like their parents have put them in timeout, and we don't know when we can go play again. So, okay, like we're in a few weeks now, you know, and if anyone's paying attention to anything, especially in the States, our Achilles heel is our size. And we have states that when they have doubt or they don't have faith in the leadership, they take it upon themselves to act accordingly. And, you know, not doing anything is a decision. That's a choice, you know. But I have no, I don't know what everyone is exactly doing right now. I know people that they're being really strict, and they're not leaving their house. They're not even grocery shopping. Fortunately, a lot of places will deliver. You know, and then there's people I see out and about walking their dogs, taking the baby strollers out, 50-50, whether they're masked or not, you know. It's a strange thing. Like but to be honest, man, like I came back to town about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I guess it just hasn't dawned on me, but I went to a grocery store and I didn't have a mask on. Everyone had one on, and I got eyeballed pretty hard, and I felt weird for many different reasons, but the main one, that the conclusion that I came to was, okay, you probably need to do this for other people. This isn't about you, you know, kind of thing.
Right. Well, it's good that that's happening that way for you, because I've been eyed the other way for wearing a mask, where people are looking at me like, what are you doing? Like you're spreading fear or whatever. Yeah. And it's crazy that way. And, you know, you go to the grocery stores here, and I'd say about 2/3 of people are wearing masks. And we have one of the highest, you know, expansion rates of the virus in the country. And it's wild to see that. It's interesting to hear that, you know, Nashville is interesting in the same way that Iowa City is kind of interesting, where it's kind of like a blue little dot in what is otherwise a red sea. And it's interesting to hear. Like, it's insane, first of all, that I had to describe it that way, because this is not a partisan thing. You know, it's going to affect everybody. But like the reaction seems to have become political. And so it's interesting that Nashville is so masked up, as you said, like where you're the only one and you're getting looks. And it's kind of the other way here. Well,
now that's not everywhere. You know, that's,
yeah.
You know, there's a big difference between the turnip truck and Kroger on East. You know,
Murder Kroger.
There is. And, you know, I'm really particular, and I do my best to go once every 2 weeks, and I'm fine. Fortunately, I have space, and I have a little bit of independence. I'm not cooped up in a condo, you know, downtown or something like that, or there's not super strict restrictions, you know, that are enforced. It's very Southern. It's very like, meh, you know, like, you know.
Here's a question for like both of you. Have you guys felt creative at all during this? Because on the one hand, like the shows get taken. I mean, people are streaming and stuff, but you know, we can talk about that too. That's not the same as touring or playing a show. Have you felt creative? Have you felt like or have you felt guilty about not being creative? How have you been dealing with that side of things?
Well, I'll never not feel guilty. That's just hardwired in. You have to almost pay me to put my guitar in my hand at the house. I can think of a million other things to do, because I get so much gratification out of playing my guitar that most days I don't feel I've deserved that time, which is really counterproductive considering what I do for a living. Creative, yeah. There's been weird things that I've wanted to do for a really long time. I've got a garden. I put a garden in the backyard. That's been super rewarding and fun. That'll lend itself to canning, you know, when things come in, which is something I've wanted to learn how to do. I've taken up sewing. I'm learning how to do some stuff. I've been wanting to learn how to tailor like certain clothes and stuff like that. None of it's easy, but it's a great time to do that. So I think I'm kind of pouring myself in that. I've also been building a studio with a couple partners here in East Nashville, and that's been rewarding. And I've been working with these guys, side by side since I got back. We're still pretty strict, we distance as much as we can. Most of it's been exterior stuff anyways. A lot of the indoor stuff got done before January. So, man, a lot of just like physical manual labor since I've been back, which I'm grateful for and enjoy doing. Musically creative? Absolutely not. I've written a lot of stuff over the last year and a half that I'm dying to record and can't wait to do it. But I just absolutely refuse to let anything dominate that protective space that is, my psyche. And, it's like it's interesting, like dreams I find really fascinating, what lives in that subconscious and what doesn't. And I'm never smoking in my dreams. There's never a cell phone in my dreams. The pandemic hasn't expressed itself in my dreams. It's just
you ain't smoking in my dreams. That's see what
so yeah. And but no, like no.
Ryan's feeling creative, clearly.
Sam Lewis song parodies.
Yeah. Hey, look, I just noticed there's people that are commenting.
Yeah. You can
Hey,
see
everybody.
that too.
Well, I mean, I think that's like it's interesting on a lot of levels. I want to get into talking about that studio because I think that there's some important stuff there. But on the level of creativity, like it's weird because I think when this started, like the first week, I felt like really pressured to be like, because time is a bizarre thing, right? And you can feel like a lot, like that's one thing, like writing or the time to be creative gets sacrificed a lot because life happens or you're touring or you're playing. Then when you have the time present itself, it's hard not to feel guilty being like, I have to do something, right? Like I want to be able to use this time. So the first week I was writing constantly. I was recording stuff. Some of it was good, some of it was garbage, but it felt really good. If it wasn't great, whatever, it was just using my time that way. And then it started to hit this weird point of being like, I don't know if I have anything to say right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've had the time to process what's going on out there.
The cup is still filling up.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Definitely.
You guys felt that
for sure. Yeah. I mean, I was like you too. Like I immediately wrote a song. And that was more like kind of like virus adjacent. It was about a woman giving birth in the toilet paper aisle of a Walmart in Springfield, Missouri, which was a real thing that happened. And I was like, well, I have this time, like you said, like I have this time, here's something to write a song about. And I wrote it. But since then, and like this happens with other things in my life too, I have too much extreme emotion about it to write about it. Like when I start thinking about what's happening, I feel too angry or I feel too sad about it. And then I write a song that is just too angry or too sad and it's bad. And then I'm frustrated that I'm writing bad songs, and it just kind of spirals for me. I think you're right about perspective and like being able to process it. Like, I don't know. I mean, like this is certainly the strangest period of my life and probably all of our lives where we have nothing that we even can do if we wanted to. And you would think that it would be the right time for songs to be pouring out. And I know that some people are that way. But for me, yeah, I just feel like I need to, like Sam, like I go outside. I started a garden for the first time in my life. I just plant things in my yard. I literally 3 times a day when I wake up before I go to bed and at lunchtime, if I haven't done anything outside, I'll just go walk around and talk to the plants that I've put in the ground and been like, you're doing good, Bellflower. You keep it up, buddy.
I do the same, yeah.
But yeah, I can't write.
And I mean, I've known both. I've known Sam for, I think, going on 10 years now, and we've played all over together. And I always think of your songs as very, I don't want to say autobiographical, but all your songs are kind of like, I think a lot of your songs are processing.
They're lived in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you go through this kind of like, I mean, I think we're going to see all kinds of art come out of this,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, how do you think that this will affect, like, will this filter through, will this find its way into the stuff? If you're not writing now, do you think it's going to sneak into stuff you do? Is it kind of impossible to avoid?
I'm the worst barometer for anything current. Like I don't follow trends. I don't, and it's not out of I'm better than that. I really don't consider a lot of things, believe it or not. They sometimes have to beat me over the head. You know, this shit might not set in for another 2 years, and my head just explodes one day and all this stuff pours out. But man, there's already going to be enough stuff out there. For one, everything's kind of already been written. Everything's already been done. Like I have to like take that on the chin every fucking day or every time I pick up my guitar, and that's fine. That's fine. Okay. But there's only one me, and I only get one life, and I only have my experiences, and I can choose what to share, how I want to share it. But
well, and I guess sorry to interrupt, but I guess that's what I mean is that like not as much like writing a song like, and then coronavirus hit and we were like, I'm not talking about that. I think more, you know, would you talk about lived in and 2 years later, like this, whatever global thing we're going through now, whatever this weird emotion is, it's going to have to kind of find its way in there. If you don't mean it to, or if it's deliberate, like that's kind of more what I'm thinking about is like, is this gonna slip into art in different ways in this like collective bizarre world we're living in right now? Like, how does it affect art?
It's impossible not to.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to thinking about this. I was watching, I haven't watched a lot of things on Netflix or anything. Just I haven't had time, and I really like am quite particular. I will put that shit off more than, you know, picking up my guitar. But I was thinking, is there going to be this massive dip in kissing scenes in films in the next 6 months? You know what I mean? Because I know they're filming. You know they're filming. You know they're working on stuff. But like, I wonder how like sexually tensed some of these rom-coms are going to be, you know, in 2021. Like it's just stuff like that you don't think about until it's like on you. It's right in front of you, and you're scratching your head and you go, something sticks out here. But to get back to what you're saying about writing, this is a massive test of mental health right now. You know, like I feel like I'm quasi semi-retired now. That's kind of normal. You know, like I go from a couple weeks on the road to like a month off, and then the 2 months on the road, and then like, you know, a week off, and then you're thrown all over the place. And a lot of times, you know, your road life is different home life because you have just a different agenda and you have a different routine and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of days if I don't apply myself and do weird things and, you know, get out of my head, man, like I will go nuts. So it's just time management. So I think a lot of people right now and for the foreseeable future are going to be really examining the beds that they have found themselves in. Okay, so, you know, and imagine being someone that's thought they were happily married, you know, and they have kids, and everyone's either working from home or not working from home or trying to teach their kids while doing XYZ. And that's a lot of testing of everything. And so then, you know, there's the people that don't have that lifestyle, and, you know, they're finding themselves, I think, even deeper in the realization of where they are. Now, I get things done in like the 11th hour. Like I'm very much that type of person. I can procrastinate and put off shit, and it's amazing what I can do in that final hour. But it's what pushes me to that point is knowing it has to get done. It can only be done by me, or, you know, something or someone is expecting this. Like this is needed. This is warranted. This has to end. So looking forward and continuing to see my shows get either canceled or punted to the fall or punted to 2021, there's a hunger in a lot of people, and definitely creative types and givers and service people, that I actually crave, and I am addicted to that show atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's very vulnerable. It's really, really fun. If you've had a good night, you're typically empty after it, like good empty, like fucking chi. You know what I mean? Like you're
worn out. Yeah.
You're worn out, even if you just stood there and I don't do anything. I'm not doing anything that impressive. Like I'm just singing and I talk a little bit and everything like that. But it's, I need that, I've come to find out. So every song that I write or finish, I'm just like, what pushes me over the edge is like, I just want to be able to fucking share this with people that like my stuff or want to hear it, because this is me, but it's in a little bit different way. And I'm really excited to share it. And now it's like, no one's really, or anything's really pushing me to not even commit, but even begin, which is very different.
Well, it's funny. I two thoughts on that. And one is like, I've always, and I know Brian, we've talked about this before. Like I kind of never feel like a song is done until that first time I've played it in front of people. And usually I'll play it in front of people and then change something. But like that's such a, and I don't know why, but it's such a barometer for me to be like, yeah, this one is going in the tank. But that connection, and it sounds cheesy, that connect. I did my first streaming show the other week, and it was really great. It was fun. I was glad to do it, but to just sit in your apartment with a camera, like, I thought about this right after it. I haven't written a set list down in I don't know how long. Like I usually, we're all songwriters. We all play solo. So much of like what's happening in the room kind of dictates what I do, like as a performer. And to have that gone was so bizarre. Like to have that kind of whatever it is, that unspoken thing in the room gone.
Immediate response, I think.
Yeah,
totally.
that
energy, man. It's just energy. It's all.
And even like just telling a joke between songs and hearing how the audience laughs can, there's so many times where I'll tell a joke and it just falls flat, and then I just grab the capo and move it to a different spot because I'm not doing the song I was about to do, like that kind of thing.
Good at that move.
But so I really just want to, because this is new for me, I want to try to do this, but that kind of ties in. Matt, Sam, you haven't done a live stream yet, right?
No.
Are you thinking about doing it? Because Matt asked this question. Oh, cool, that works. Look at that.
Wow.
Oh, Matt.
Look at Matt.
Look at that handsome devil. Look at that profile pic.
But
Come on, Matt.
This is a long-winded Matt question here, but the essence of it is, how if you are trying to get money from Venmo tips or something like that with live streams, how do you keep it fresh? Because we're all so used to, you play your songs, you go to the next town. It doesn't matter if you played that song last night, you can play it again tonight. It's all new people. But, and Ryan, we've talked about this. Like sometimes you turn on Facebook or whatever, or Instagram, and the same people are live all the time and they're trying to mix it up. But it's like, how many times does anybody want to watch me play the same songs? And so I guess Matt was asking if there's anything that we think of for broadcasting art and ways to keep it, fresh and different each time you do it. We don't necessarily have all the answers, but any thoughts?
I've got a theory, or I've got an idea. Like, in all honesty, if you pull yourself away from this entire lens, we've kind of been getting prepared for this.
Mm-hmm.
When I really started looking at Instagram and then like the live streaming, like, the story section,
Mm-hmm.
I really thought like, well, this is all this, especially, when stuff has gone to streaming and everything, it's when we switch gears to renting art versus purchasing it. And then then the story stuff, on social platforms, it's temporary. It actually expires. It disappears. And so I think the majority of people that do a lot of living on, virtual living, if you will, they're getting accustomed to seeing things, a lot of things in a short amount of time, and then they just disappear forever. Okay, now that completely goes against the grain for someone like myself, that I have to experience, the cup has to be filled, and then it has to be emptied, and then maybe I share a little bit of that. But if nothing else, for my own sanity, I have to empty that out. And I'm dependent upon, since the outcome is going to exist on a professionally recorded and documented thing, then I like to test this stuff out on people, like musicians and artists and comics, performers, if you will. They kind of they have a same kind of regiment with that, and it's very much dependent upon that type of routine. And so it's amazing what I'm comfortable sharing in a song, but not comfortable. I'm very uncomfortable. Like, you're inside my house right now. Like, whoever's watching or seeing this, like, that's my living room, and it's all, and then this is a little bit of my kitchen. Yeah, it's just a little tiny shot into my place, but this is my fucking place, man. This is the only place that I can really hide. This is essentially my permanent green room.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is my business. This is my privacy. And so I'm not terribly comfortable sharing as much as people have grown to expect other people to share, because other people are doing the same thing. I'm just simply not into that. So the live streaming shows, like, I've thought. I'm like, well, there's going to be a wave of them right out of the gate. And you know what I mean? Sure enough, there are, and they're going to continue for a while. And I think this type of thing is kind of, this is special. This has been my first, time really doing anything like this. I feel like I'm not alone. I'm talking to you guys who I love, and I love your perspectives. I'm learning as we're hanging out. We're getting to share this. This is cool. This isn't all about me. And I think that's what's really uncomfortable and crazy, is that I can be more comfortable on a stage in front of people, more comfortable there than in the privacy of my own home with my phone, doing whatever and sharing it with the world. That makes really no sense to me, but that is what we're dealing with me.
Access is kind of a Pandora's box, right?
Right.
In that, the things that are coming, there are a bunch of net positives from being able to do this kind of thing, to be able to stream from home. But there is also, some of the things that I've seen that I really have hated. Some conversations that I've heard going through this are people talking about, well, you just need to create content. You need to have, access. Let's be honest. As much as you want to say that streaming a concert is for people, it's for us. It's to connect, it's I don't know. I don't know if the world needs me singing them songs from my living room right now. It's nice to do, but it's as much for me as it is for anybody else, right? It's as much to give me something to do. But the flip side of that, and I don't mean to sound negative about it. I'm not, but the flip side of that is, and I think we've all talked about this too. I miss mystery in rock and roll. I don't like I'm not crazy about, I think it's cool to be, but when you were talking about your living room, it just made me think, there's so much in music history that is unknown, that's mysterious. People have protected true stories or their idea, used to be the studio was a sacred place. People aren't allowed in there. You create in there. There are no sacred places left. Access is kind of expected at all times. One of the things that drives me nuts about the Instagram story culture is, I've been in studios working on records where people get distracted because they want to get their Instagram post right. And it drives me insane because that's not why you're here. Get your head in the game. But no, like, I need to make sure that people see this. I need to see sure that, you know, all of these things that, for all the positives that access has created, and that social media has created, I think there are some real losses to the mystique that is music.
I 100% agree with you. No. Like, I have nothing to add because you're 100% right about that.
I didn't catch it. What were you saying? Yeah. No, yeah, I agree, and that's what's hard. You know, really difficult for someone that wants to serve and share. And every day you wake up and every day you go to bed, and you know you haven't even scratched the surface of what all you could share.
Oh,
that
yeah.
really hurts. It really hurts, man. Because like I would like to give more, but I'm not comfortable because I feel like I give a lot. You know, I give quite a bit, but even more importantly, the majority of anything else I have to share is it's worthless. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Who fucking cares? You
did a really interesting thing on this that I really commend you for. That you've done really. I think you've kind of done it twice. One of the things that you did that I loved, that I thought was a really great way of giving people access, but also exclusive, is I think it was Waiting on You. When that record came out, you did the hotel sessions,
right?
Which I loved. Which was, you know, you had all of these. Well, you explain it. You can explain it better than I can.
Yeah, well, they were, we all make demos of our songs, and you know, this thing here is basically a new 4-track or 2-track or whatever, and you know, I had was demoing the songs out, and you finish a song and you do a little recording, or if it's an old song, you dust it off. Anyways, they're all compiled, and I shared them with Oliver Wood, who helped me make Waiting on You. And then we got to talk about the songs and stuff like that. And then those demos made it to the band, and they listened to them before we went into the studio. And then, you know, based on that, we then set out to record the songs, you know. But it was basically, here's a memo of what we're going to do. You can check it out or not. Like, you know, like, I don't even know if everybody listened to them. But regardless, I thought it'd be kind of cool to package them for people that, you know, basically a reward for people that pre-ordered the Waiting on You final thing. I created it because all these recordings were made in like different hotels. I couldn't tell you when or where, but that's essentially what they are. And it's just me with a guitar playing, singing into my phone. Never intended for anybody else. Quite personal, in all honesty. It is kind of looking at, you know, a journal, but the songs were kind of done. Anyways, I made 100 of them. That's it. They're never going to be online. They'll never be on Spotify. They'll never be anywhere. It was a reward for people that have been following me and continue to follow me. And it was special. And that's what it was for. So it was fun.
I love that. I love that it is like letting people in, but also, you know, pumping the brakes and saying this isn't for everybody. You know, this isn't, right. You know, there's some exclusivity to it that's very cool. And then I think you kind of took that to another level on your newest record. Can you talk a little bit about, I know this is changing gears a little bit, but I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, so you put out, you know, your first 3 records, and I think every record is kind of a reaction to the thing that we just did before in some way. And so you put out Loveversity, which was, I think, the biggest record. And by big, I mean, you know, like biggest sounding record.
Yeah.
And then you followed that up with this, your most recent release, which is a live solo recording at the same studio that you did Loveversity at.
Right.
I mean, I think that's also, that kind of plays into what we're talking about, where it's, you know, a very deliberate move to give people, it's an intimate performance. Like it really does feel like you're like a Sam Lewis. It's great. But can you talk a little bit about like why why you decided to do that as your next album?
Yeah, kind of. Well, I'm one of many singer-songwriters that will go and make a production, and there's going to be more than just me on it because of access. And well, you hear these things and these sounds, and you want to chase them down, and you hang out with your buddies, and you make these recordings, and they're fucking awesome, and they're fun, and you did it, and you're great, and then you're like, I can't tour this. I can't tour this sound. I can't. You realize kind of what you're up against, and it's almost broken me because I can't really, or do I want to play those songs any other way? Because that's how I heard them, and that's how I want to tour them and play them every night. Because we thought of that, and that's how it should be played. So, I I got to after University, again the same kind of routine. I'd go out and play these 90-minute sets of just by myself. And I became like I had a big bout with guilt of selling people something that they just didn't see, that because there's a lot of new people that will come out and they're like, they want what you just did, and they want to take that and go home with it or find it online, and it didn't exist. And I just wanted to rectify it. And so the best thing that I could come up with was to do it in, a professional setting, place such as, a big studio, which was Southern Ground. It can hold 50 to 70 people fairly comfortably, but it's contained, and you're inside a studio and you get to kind of see how it works. But it's honestly, it was kind of like a house concert, or a very small intimate show. But ultimately, I could have done that without anybody in there, but I honestly was worried that it wouldn't be as good, because I do like performing. I like playing in front of people, and they're gonna sound different every night, even if no one notices it. There's different feelings and that sort of stuff that goes into it, and so and I wanted to revisit some songs that I'd recorded on the previous albums that I play night after night, that people have grown to like, but they can't find that version. And so now they have it, and now I did it. So it's out there.
Yeah. And I think it's a really cool, I think you kind of nailed it, because I agree that having an audience there makes it better in a lot of ways, because you're not doing that studio obsession with perfection thing, like when you're reacting to people around you, it's not you with your eyes closed and the headphones on and like you're trying to make sure it sounds perfect. You're reacting to the people in front of you. But it was also better than Sam Lewis live at 3rd and Lindsley or something, where you had more control because you were in a studio, and B, I think that there's less distractions for the audience. So it's cool because there is like kind of like an intro, outro audience, and then like some laughing during funny lines. But otherwise, it's a studio recording. And if anybody listening hasn't heard Sam Lewis's solo, you should go check it out. I wanted to kind of transition because we were talking. I don't want to go too long on this thing, but we were talking on the phone the other day when we asked you to do this, and you were explaining the studio that you had mentioned earlier, and kind of the super interesting vision you have for how a studio can function regardless of the pandemic, but maybe the pandemic is just giving you more time to work it out. But if you could talk about kind of your vision for how that would work business-wise that you had mentioned.
Right. So Matty Alger and Brandon Bell and myself are joining forces, I guess, or experiences, and trying to pour in to a studio space what we've wanted, what we love, and how we would like to spend the next 10 or 15 years of our careers together, working on things that we want to work on, how we want to work on them, so on and so forth. And the timing's been interesting. I mean, I don't think it could have worked out any better. And for those that know, Brandon Bell was the former chief engineer at Southern Ground Studios, which is now being sold. And so that's unfortunate. That was a very special place. I had some history there, but Brandon poured a lot of his life and time over the last 10 years into that place, and made a lot of records and pulled people like me in there. He was a great conduit, I think, for that studio. And unfortunately, it priced a lot of people out because it is a seriously high functioning studio, but it mostly was appealed toward label artists and so forth. But anyways, so we have an idea of we're trying to bridge the old music making platform, that being a studio kind of used to be the nucleus of a label. Everything kind of used to begin there, and then
Sun,
all of them, all the ones.
Atlantic.
And yeah, this is nothing new, but but you can hear it and you can feel it, and there is more of a, you used to get a record, and we weren't alive, really, during these times, but you would get a record, and a lot of people would buy the record because of either the label or the studio name on the thing. They wouldn't even know the fucking artist. They'd just be like, oh, the Bang makes really good records, I'm gonna get this thing, Yeah. And so that's how a lot of stuff was made. And then fast forward now, where you can do about anything anywhere. The industry is pretty much a la carte. Anybody can claim to be an independent artist and not really be, because they're getting help from that or this or that. But ultimately, we'd like to bridge that in some sort of way that brings everything to the table. We can help you in about anything that you want. We're not going to come right out of the gate distributing music, but if you don't have a distributor, well, we know distributors. How about we figure out what kind of genre of music this thing is about to be, and then we go after a distributor that makes sense instead of going with someone else that doesn't make sense, and so on and so forth. But also a lot of things that being a singer-songwriter, and you guys know, and if you're not privy to this, a lot of times the only attention you can get from people that might want to help you, such as a label, a lot of it is dependent upon what kind of producer you can get. And a lot of times it's just a name, and that's just how it works. I mean, it's the same thing in films. There's a lot of things that get green lighted because they got such and such to direct it, or they got such and such to star in it, or so on and so forth. It's nothing new. It's nothing uncommon. But man, that's typically that person makes the most money out of that recording budget. Now, our question is, what if we could take a fraction of whatever that would be and invest that into more time into a studio to develop an artist and their sound, and it's all shared. So what we're trying to do, what we like to do, is create a production company where us three act as said producer, and this project is produced by us and the artist, and that's essentially it. And you're paying for studio time, whatever that's going to be, but that also includes XYZ.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic. There's not a lot of money to be made really anymore. And then while this is going on, where things are crashing and burning all around us, I don't even know if what we're doing is going to be any type of a success, other than us getting to do what we enjoy doing and doing it together with other people. But it's just there's just a lot of fucking wasted money, and there's a lot of wasted time. and there's a lot of there's just a lot going on, and I think time could be spent better. And there's just a lot of middlemen in this industry, and that's why people are freaking the fuck out about any industry. It's because there's a lot of middlemen. There's a lot of people to pay to get to do what you think you wanted it to do.
It's all middlemen, myself included. But there's a lot of interesting stuff to pick apart from what you just said, and one of them is that like we live in a time where curation is the way that things break through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can take that to its source, if you have an aesthetic and you're creating an aesthetic, from the get-go, there's a label here, a jazz label, International Anthem. Every record they put out looks awesome. They all have the same band on them. What they're going to put out. You kind of know what it's going to sound like.
The family.
You know where it lives. It's going to look dope. And so it's kind of like anything that label puts out, I want to get my hands on.
Right.
And even if it's something that, like, at the end of the day, that's not my favorite thing they did, I know I'm going to like what they do. And I would love to hear that in kind of the Americana world, because, I get really fed up with being told everybody's, here comes the next John Prine, and being like, this guy's terrible and his records produce terribly, or seeing somebody that I think is a great songwriter and then they put their record out and it's just like, man, this guy spent a lot of money to sound terrible. And I think that one of the things you get caught up in as an artist, especially if you're like leading a band or you're into, everything ends up falling on you.
Right.
So when you talk about the studio, you have all these decisions to make, from what you were talking about like, how much studio time can I have? Do I need to cut that down because I'm going to pay this guy to produce it? How much is that going to cut into me being able to do a PR campaign for the record? How am I going to do all of this? I mean, there's so many things to think about that get away from actually creating the record.
It's unbalanced. It's unbalanced. This industry has done a great job by isolating the artist for not their sake.
Yeah.
And it's debilitating. I mean, it's like there's a lot of artists, and I'm one of many that, I'm probably I should be the last person, quasi managing said career. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, and that's where we're at right now with everything. Just because you can do that, does that make you, or does that make you a professional? Does that make you, an expert? Like, I have no clue. I just find that every day at midnight, the experts are wrong. Every day. And so it's difficult. It's difficult to navigate who to listen to about what, or, who knows what. And there's a shit ton of spin. There's a lot of people that I think genuinely want to help and want to serve, but a lot of them don't have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between me calling this place a studio and people coming in and, all willy-nilly. It's like, I would never do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't have the tools. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the experience. You know what I mean? I write songs and I perform them. And I know people, that do the same thing. And I know what that needs. I know how that needs to be managed and looked at and taken care of to get from point A to point B. But I can't push buttons. I don't know, like, all that shit's going on. And so it takes, you need help. And, that's why that's what I'm most excited about. The time that I'm going to be spending in town I'm going to be able to help more, and I'm going to be pushed more, and I'm going to be, and all that's going to happen with talented friends that know way more than I know. And that's what is going to be needed to go forward in it.
Yeah. Well, so to bring this thing back around, then I guess what I'm wondering what you guys think about this, and kind of what I hear from what you're saying is, I know that you've been working on this for a while, and we've all three of us have talked about different models and things that are kind of wrong with this industry. And it's hard to say that, like, what positive things are going to come out of the other end of this. But it seems to me that one of the positives, especially in the music business, is that there's so much in flux right now. There's so much in trouble that when we're going to have to rebuild whatever it is on every level. And is there an opportunity? You know, I think we're all looking at the things that have been done saying like, well, why do we put records out this way? Because somebody told us to? Why are we putting all our money into X, Y, and Z when we could do these other things? Is this a chance to kind of start anew, to rebuild, to look at things from a different perspective? I mean, people are going to have to look at touring differently. You're going to have to look at like what your revenue is differently, and you're going to have to put out records differently, right? So
Totally.
is there a big opportunity coming to kind of make this better for all of us?
So
well, if it's going to continue, yes. The answer is yes. What is it? Fuck, I don't know. Like, I have no clue. But there's going to have to be less independence. There's going to have to be people that quit feeling like they're against the world or the world's against them. Like, you're going to have to stop. You're going to have to join forces, you know, and you're going to have to push together into something. You have to share. You have to share attention. And that's the thing that I fucking can't stand about social media and that platform and how it self-promotes. It's all it does is self-promote. It's gross. It's disgusting. It's all about me all the time. It's your own little world. It's your own little channel. It's not real.
Except here on Crumbs, where we're all about the community.
The community of three.
Yeah. Well, if I think this industry I can speak more about than anything else, but it's if you're finding yourself, you know, as am I, exhausted and broke, then I might as well have some fucking fun, you know. And that's kind of where we're all at. It's like how old am I? I think I'm 36 or 37. I can't remember. But anyway, like, I'm halfway at the end, man. Like, I just want to hang out with my buddies that inspire me and make me feel good and push me. And I do the same for them. And it's open door, man. Come on in, come hang out. We'll figure it out. It's just the beginning. And I don't know. We don't have all the answers. Maybe you have some answers that you know, we could use. So.
Well, and I think that, like, I think all three of us can agree that some of the most fun times we've ever had doing this are when we go on the road together.
Yeah.
Lost you
late
there,
night,
right?
you come in and you sit around, play guitar, and you get creative, right?
Yeah. The road's really important.
Am I back?
Yeah, the road's really important.
Well, I was
to kind of recap on the road or whatever, but it is like an immediate validator on all things. It's reassuring. I mean, even some nights where it's not, you know, the room's half empty, something still sticks and lands on someone, and you feel that, you know, or someone can surprise you with the craziest story or whatever. It's just, it pushes you and it encourages you, like, you know, keep writing, you know, keep sharing, keep putting yourself out there. At least one person tonight needed it, or at least they expressed that to you. You know, I don't know who needs what. I don't know why they need it or why they don't. I have no clue, man. I know that it helps me remind me that I'm not alone, you know, and so going forward in the next few months, potentially the rest of the year, without performing live, I'm gonna have to, like, find a way to stay in you know, good graces with, you know, my audience and my followers, and they, I think by now they know to not expect like a daily post or some, you know, shameless, like, I don't know. I'm terrible at promotion, but that's why I think, again, that's why I'm excited about. I happen to find myself temporarily switching gears into this other kind of medium that I get to share.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I'm more encouraged to exploit and shamelessly promote if there's others involved, because I get more excited about that. You know what I mean? I am me 24/7, every city, at home, while I'm sleeping. Like, yeah, man. Like I've been over me for a really long time.
Let's be us, Sam.
Let's be us.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, man.
My pleasure.
This was awesome. I think I had a good time. If you guys had a good time, let us know. We're going to be back next week with somebody. We don't know yet. Maybe Sam again. Maybe this will just be a weekly chat with Sam just to check in.
Well, I failed to introduce him earlier, but I don't know if we've run out of time, but I had my friend here with me this whole time. He's been hanging out and ruining a lot of Zoom calls. I don't know if you recognize Mr. Bob Ross.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's hiding something with that easel, I'll tell you that.
Oh, he's hiding something with these, all right.
Or whatever it is.
My sisters gave me this a couple Christmases ago. He's an ink pen. Yeah.
That's where the hits get written, folks. They get written with the Bob Ross pen.
Look at them. Look at that buttocks.
I see where you got Loveversity from.
I think,
right there,
Sam,
man.
when you start signing people to this label in this studio, I think you have to make them all sign with that pen.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm going to make them electronically signed with Bob Ross. That's a metaphor.
And we're going to end on that. Thanks for tuning in to Crumbs, folks.
Yeah.
We'll catch you next week. We'll see you later.